Welcome. My name is Opubo Benebo. Every operating firm has the fundamental possibility of suffering malfeasance from invasion of thieves going through the farm to steal the produce. Malcontent individuals disposed to depriving the farmer of the produce and as such accessing the farm merely to destroy the farm and produce, including in this case of advanced farming, cause damage to any or several of the functionality that enables the farm operations as a standing operation. So a necessary functionality to be added to is vesting the farm with security system, both to deter such intrusions and also to inform the potential intruders of the consequential legal liabilities. Besides, the setting up of the security system is aptly the next functionality task that needs to be performed, as the availability of electric power ensures that the sensors, signals, and actuator devices could be powered, both for the testing and final deployment setup. In synopsis, this episode, entitled Setting Up the Farm Security System, proffers the setting up of the security system based on the comprehensive considerations of all potential means of damage to the farming activities, encompasses systematic approach to addressing all the means of damage, and explains the options yet available to explore for improvement. The driver rationale getting the setting up of the farm security has the object of ensuring that the farm produce ultimately is available for food in the manner that is consistent with the perspective of return on investment. After all, the needs functionalities obtains obviously from investments that are made. Regarding the implementation options, to the end of establishing comprehensive security system, a necessary consideration is an understanding and delineations of all possible forms of intrusions into the farm, and then the design of intrusion-specific security systems, because the collective, when integrated, constitutes the farm security system anyway. So delineations of readily conceivable intrusions consist of 4 types: domestic animal pets intrusions, wild animal pets such as squirrel intrusions, human theft intrusions, and human malevolent intrusion. And so the security system must necessarily have the capability to address each type of the intrusions, as well as have the capacity to address each type with reliable frequency by satisfying a certain repeatability requirement. Because the delineations reveal 2 broad classes of intrusions: ground level intrusions characterizing the domestic animal pets intrusions, and fence high level intrusions characterizing the climbing domestic and wild animal intrusions, as well as the full spectrum vertical human intrusions based on Homo erectus skeletal form. At the fundamental scale, therefore, the security system will have to have 2 categories of sensors, signal systems, and actuator devices. One category dedicated to ground level surveillance, the other category dedicated to full spectrum vertical surveillance. Admittedly, the devices by functionality and features may likely overlap with respect to the designated domain scopes of surveillance, but however, they will differ in the specificity of the deployment for each type of intrusion. So the devices selection process may not differ much consideration to overlapping functionality and features. So then, on a general sense, the security devices for consideration of purchase could consist of motion detectors, functional at ground level and at full spectrum vertical breadth of the height of the fence of the farm, signal transmitter signals, and response actuators. Specific enumerations are eschewed here to avoid providing free advertising services to any one company. Anyway, availed with the required devices, the deployment for each category of intrusion should be instructive towards a secured farm produce farming experience. Even so, the deployment of the devices are in some respects common to all classes of intrusions, and for compactness, such may be presented as a baseline reference. In particular, motion detectors are deployed such that one is placed at the extreme of each trough or the 0.75 foot corridor to detect motion over the whole length. Also, one motion detector is placed at every top corner of the cage structure, which is the structure of the fence as it's built, and bearing wide-angle lenses for wide-angle view, resulting in minimal set theoretic intersection exclusion at the midpoints between the monitors. The motion detectors also must have the connection to other devices, which at the discretion of the farmer may be a photo capture device or a high-intensity audio emitter device. Further, the motion detectors also must have the connection to another device which, at the discretion of the farmer, relays the signal in real time to home-based notification view monitor or cell phone monitor app with buttons to enable a switch on of the photo capture or audio emitter device. Alternative to the audio emitter, the farmer may also opt to be just connected to a remote speaker, a two-way intercom device with bidirectional COM device that opens at one end and remote enable the other end for activation of voice emanation to send verbal shoo away. The deployment will place audio emitter at several locations, at one end of each trough or the 0.75 feet corridor, and midsections of the fence dimensions. These are interfaces with the ground level motion detectors. The corner-mounted wide-angle view are also so interfaced. Now then, regarding the domestic pet animal intrusion, domestic pet animals are likely to be mostly dogs and cats, and dogs are mostly ground-based while a cat is mobile across the full spectrum of vertical breadth of the height of the enclosing fence. So the security system must differentiate the ground-bound and the fence climbers. Addressing the security measure against the ground-bound is the baseline and can be accomplished with mostly two efforts: making the inter-fence pickets spaces of the farm smaller than the size of a standard puppy size, say 2 inches apart, ensuring that the farm is in fact enclosed in a cage-form structure of metal rods with fence pickets integrated with the cage as panels. This form will prevent the fence from falling into the farm as well when the ground-bound pets rest on the fence. The intrusion by the full-spectrum vertical intruder is best addressed with the motion detectors. The photo capture device closest to the motion detector is set to signal to begin taking aerial pictures of the farm to capture the image of the specific source of intrusion. Simultaneously, the audio emitter may also be signaled to emit high shrilling audio to scare away the intruder if an animal. Otherwise, if the motion detectors are configured to relay the signal in real time to the home-based notification, view monitor or cell phone app, then the farmer may opt to remote activate the voice emanation to send verbal shoo away sounds to domestic pet animals, but reserve the audio emitter for use to scare away wild animals. Regarding the wild pets category of intrusion, however, the deployment against the wild pet animal intrusion is but only one step above the deployment against full spectrum vertical spanning domestic pets, in the sense that there is no disposition for a gentle shoo away, but rather a harsh shoo away. So for this class of intrusion, addressing of the intrusion is fairly compact in that the farmer, once alerted through the view monitor of the intrusion and having determined the intrusion to be of a wild animal such as squirrel class, may simply fire off the high shrill audio emitter to really scare off the intruder animal. Now, regarding the human theft category of intrusion, publicly visible signs may be the first step and necessary to give preemptive prescription from the farm and hence establish legal basis for prosecution in the event of a human entering the farm against the wishes. Also, the motion detector system is just as applicable here given the Homo erectus skeletal frame of humans and as such needs the full spectrum vertical span condition. So for this class of intrusion, addressing of the intrusion again is fairly compact in that the farmer, once alerted through the view monitor of the intrusion and having determined the intrusion to be of the human theft class, may simply fire up a verbal warning to the offender of being seen even as the crime is about to be committed. The aim here is to discourage a person from continuing on to commit the act of theft, and the bidirectional two-way intercom device deployed at the farm is applicable and useful in this case, and so is activated and spoken through to inform the would-be thief of being observed in course of committing the theft. Then, of course, should the theft still be committed, then the farmer would and could take a photo of the person in the act. Now, regarding the human malevolent intrusion, as with the theft category, the publicly visible sign may still be applicable and is necessary to give preemptive prescription from the farm and hence establish, yet, as always, legal basis for prosecution in the event of entry and causing of the damages. Also, the motion detection system is just as applicable here given the, again, Homo erectus skeletal frame of humans and as such meets the full spectrum vertical span condition. So for this class of intrusion as well, addressing of the intrusion is fairly compact in that the farmer alerted through the view monitor of the intrusion and or having determined the intrusion and having determined the intrusion to be of human malevolence may simply fire off a high shrill audio emitter primarily to call the neighbors and passers-by attention to the farm of an ongoing mischief, while also using a two-way intercom device to alert the person of being observed in the farm despite the warning on the fence to stay out and having been taken a picture of the person for legal action in committing the crime of vandalism of the farm and portions thereof. The conclusion that could be drawn here is that a farmer has several approaches to implementing the security system of a farm to ensure that the farm and invariably the farm produce are preserved for the subsistence of the farmer and kin of choice, and not instead deprived of the produce by wildebeest and human criminal elements. The configurations, of course, considered so far for building the security system using the chosen devices are not necessarily exhaustive, and more work could still be done to fortify the farm and farm produce preservation's need. Surmising from the considerations, one fact is obvious. A core security device is the motion detector, and about which the whole system may always be configured. Also, while not explicitly included in the discussion, there may exist the need to implement security system on the piping system, provisioning water to the farm from the water source. In those circumstances where there is an extended distance spanned by the provisioning system, then the opportunity for foul play opens up to malevolent human beings as well, and protection of sorts would be advised. And it is a wrap. On that note, I say to you, thank you so much for having come to listen to this observation about efforts aimed at alleviating world hunger through subsistence farming by both urban dweller farmers and emergent country small farms farmers. You are truly appreciated. And if you would like to get privilege viewer-reader information, access podcasts of specialized contents, or even vertically integrated concepts, then I implore you to join my support club and enjoy that privilege status. Thank you. Moreover, while you are still here, do please take a moment and subscribe to the channel as to be informed of the publication of every new episode as soon as it is released. Bye. Till next episode.